It's not the cost, it's the benefit. And the benefit exceeds the costs in a dramatic way, such that really the cost of the reverse mortgage is not using it, not taking advantage of that, creating a worse outcome for yourself.
Hello, everyone. This is Don Graves, and thank you for joining me today with my special guest, Dr. Wade Pfau, who I say is my good friend. Wade, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Don. It's great to talk to you.
It's good to be here. Congratulations on the third revision of your book, Reverse Mortgages. And that just came out, I think, 1st of March. How's that going so far?
Yeah, it's been a great reception and a lot of interest right now in reverse mortgages. So I'm glad to be able to help provide some education around that, and a lot of revisions with the third edition. So yeah, it's been great so far.
Wade, I want to unpack a few things. We've got a webinar coming up next week, and so we're going to use some of this to invite advisors to come to the webinar. Then we'll do some things that will just be questions in general that I think people will find helpful. So let's start. How did you first become interested in reverse mortgages, and why?
It's a great question. It was always something on my to-do list, as my job title is still, I think I'm the only one in the United States who's a professor of retirement income. So I knew I had an obligation to look at all the different ways people talk about retirement. It wasn't necessarily a high priority for me to look at reverse mortgages, though, just due to the common misperceptions out there that I would have shared as well, that they aren't necessarily all that helpful. But then John Salter from Texas Tech University invited me to the Funding Longevity Task Force meeting in Boston, where I met you when I first started learning about reverse mortgages. But he sent me a stack of articles, read those on the plane, and it was fascinating. I never really had looked much into it, but then saw the potential for how this tool can really provide a more efficient way to think about home equity as part of the retirement plan. And it piqued my interest, started replicating some of the existing research, and just took it from there. Found the same sort of outcomes, that coordinated strategic use of reverse mortgage can help meet financial goals and preserve legacy at the same time. So that was my introduction to it.
Why such an interest nowadays in reverse mortgages from advisors or just people in general?
I think there is a growing understanding that all the misconceptions about reverse mortgages are not the case. And so it is something worth learning about. And then really with reverse mortgages, the main conversation has been around the coordination strategy, which is, if your investment portfolio is going through a market downturn, tap into the reverse mortgage to help protect the portfolio, to avoid selling assets at a loss, to lock in that sequence of returns risk. And by those types of metrics right now, with the market downturn we're experiencing, that can trigger some of those rules of, now's a good time, instead of selling from a declining portfolio, spend from the reverse mortgage to cover retirement spending needs. And so that, I think you're going to see that whenever there's any sort of market volatility like what we're experiencing right now, that's going to lead to a growth of interest in reverse mortgages. Well, when I first started learning about it, I really didn't have much idea of what it was, other than just a way to get funds out of the home. But beyond that, I really hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about the mechanics of it. And today, that would still be part of the definition, but it's more than that. It's really just like someone can spend from an IRA or spend from their taxable brokerage account. It's a way to spend from home equity. It's accounted for in a bit different way because you have a loan balance that grows, but there's an equivalence with, if I spend from investments, not only am I spending that investment, but I'm now spending the future growth that investment could have had if I held on to it. And so it's really, at the end of the day, a way to better coordinate, when do I spend investments, when do I spend home equity, to meet my financial retirement goals, my spending needs in retirement. And that's the basic way I would define what a reverse mortgage does. It's just a way to spend home equity in retirement.
As you learned about reverse mortgages, what surprised you the most as you began learning about them?
What surprised me the most was the way to understand them was this broader retirement problem that I had been dealing with. And I think still, even to this day, a lot of people don't recognize how much changes when people retire. They're used to the pre-retirement investment management, wealth accumulation mindset. And things really do change in retirement. And so that was the opening that, oh, this reverse mortgage, that if you think with an accumulation frame, it just seems like something expensive that you don't need. But when you actually think about the retirement frame and how these pieces fit together and how it can help meet spending needs in a way that, when really it's not a cost in and of itself, it's how much would you leave after meeting the same spending needs at retirement? How much can you leave as a legacy? And by strategically using the reverse mortgage, it's not a cost, it's a benefit. The benefits you get for the financial plan exceed the costs on a fair, not 100% of the time, but on a fairly consistent basis. And also in the third edition, I really focus on this idea of risk management as well, which is when the portfolio is in trouble, that's when you need the most help. And those are specific scenarios where a reverse mortgage can improve outcomes.
Some advisors are concerned about the cost of reverse mortgages, the closing cost. How do you address that as a researcher, now knowing what you know?
Mm-hmm. I get that question a lot with the research is, what did you account for the cost of the reverse mortgage? And I do, I put in the full retail. I mean, there's upfront costs, there's a growing loan balance on the funds that are borrowed. And I incorporate all that into the research because I think it's important to show that if I'm going to advocate for a reverse mortgage, I really want to stack the deck against it, put in full potential costs into it, and then see if the benefits exceed the costs. And that's what the research consistently shows, that by being part of a coordinated overall retirement strategy with helping the investment side as well, and with the synergies of managing this sequence of returns, risk, and retirement, you can better meet spending goals and then have more legacy at the end. Remaining investments plus the value of the home minus the costs and loan balance of the reverse mortgage, you get a better outcome. And so it's not the cost in and of itself, it's the benefit. There's really a negative cost because you can get a better financial outcome at the end.
Well spoken, Wade. Why should financial advisors become knowledgeable about reverse mortgages? And I want to include the spectrum of advisors, from wealth managers to insurance and annuity providers and the whole gamut. Why is it important for them to become knowledgeable about reverse mortgages?
Right. Anyone who's moving beyond just managing an investment portfolio and is trying to help provide financial planning advice for building a complete retirement strategy, it's really important to think about the use of home equity, because for the typical American household, home equity is a huge asset. It's home equity, some investments, Social Security benefits. You can't really help someone have a good retirement outcome if you're only looking at the investment piece, or even, and you should also help with the Social Security claiming decision. But if you're ignoring home equity, you're ignoring one of these three major assets that households have available, and you're potentially leading them to worse financial outcomes than you would get if you were thinking more holistically about home equity alongside the investments, alongside the Social Security claiming, to get that better overall strategy.
Wade, what's your favorite color?
Purple.
What type of pets did you grow up with in Iowa?
We always had cats. Never had a dog before. Always been cats. And parakeets, occasionally. Although one of my cats ate the parakeet once.
So, all right. Should we ask anything else? I think I've covered everything. Anything you like for me to ask you?
No, that should work.